This is the Dad and Joe Show. I'm the Dad.
I'm the Joe.
And this is the show where fathers and sons have regular conversations about important life issues to keep us awake
and sober. Yeah.
This is the About Us segment. Maybe you're watching it before you watched other episodes, or maybe you watched a few episodes and now you're trying to get to know us a bit. But we're going to share a bit about who we are and help you get to know us and why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously the dad. My name is David, and I'm in my 50s right now. Joe is our fourth kid. He's our only son. He has 3 older sisters, and so he's the only one still living at home.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I'm Joe, obviously. I'm 17. I go to, obviously,
a school. Junior year.
Brand new school. So hoping that will kick off well. Christian school, so that's beneficial, and just looking to find a good community there, and just keep growing in myself as a person. So yeah.
So how did we end up here?
We ended up here off of some bad life choices I made, and taking some bad decisions health-wise, and just that weren't good for like my lifespan for the rest of my life. So I happened to take a year off of my life, just live in a bubble in a secluded place with a bunch of other people, and just work on myself for about a year. Come back and just start brand new, which was amazing for me.
Yeah. So it was a 15-month recovery program.
Yeah.
And the first 9 months, Joe was out of the state, but about 10, 11 hours away from us. And then he came home in March of 2023 and has been home 6 months. So he will officially complete the program end of this month and then graduate.
What's this month?
This month is August.
So.
But it's been intense. In June of 2022, we had 2 guys come pick up Joe. Because things had spiraled out of control, and we didn't think that he would willingly go with us.
Yeah.
Don't think he would have gone with us. Not a chance. So probably the hardest year of my life, probably the hardest year of your life.
Yeah.
But things have turned quite a bit. So since March, since Joe came home, we just tried to have some more conversations, not where mom and dad are preaching to him, but just to have regular conversations about stuff. There was a passage of scripture that spoke to me. It's in 1 Kings. It's about the story of David. At the end of his life, he, if you know the story about David, you'll know that his oldest son Absalom was killed. He revolted against David. He was mad at his father, revolted against him, and ended up getting killed. So the next son, his name is Adonijah. And it says in 1 Kings 1:5, so David is just about to die. He's not doing so well. And it says, about that time, David's son Adonijah began boasting, I will make myself king. So he provided himself with chariots and charioteers and recruited 50 men to run in front of him. Now his father, King David, had never disciplined him at any time, even by asking, why are you doing that? Adonijah had been born next after Absalom, and he was also very handsome. And I thought, Joe's getting old enough that discipline looks really different. Yeah. It's no longer going the timeout chair or being grounded or anything else we used to do.
Yeah.
But I just thought, at least I want to have a conversation and say, hey, Joe, why are you doing that? What are you thinking when it comes to that? So these conversations started out of that. And the reason why we called it the Dad and Joe Show is because we want to encourage dads and sons to have conversations. His name is Joe, but we're also saying he's the average Joe. He's a teenager like a lot of people are. I'm an average dad, and we just want to model for you conversations around important topics. You sit and talk to each other.
Sure.
So we went on a trip with some of the other guys that you were spent some time with this last year, two other guys and 2 other dads. And on our drive out and on our drive back, we recorded some episodes, and that's where we started it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a few of them didn't have, the mics weren't working, so we'll see what happens. Well, hopefully some of those will turn out. So if you've listened to those, we're really sorry for the sound quality. It didn't turn out so great. So we hope to do that. I'll make that a little bit better. But the purpose of each episode is really just to reground ourselves. So I was thinking today when we went to church this morning, today's a Sunday when we're recording this, and I just thought how important it is that we are regularly around other people so that we constantly ground ourselves to truth, to things that are healthy for us. You know, when you've been in recovery program, how important was that consistency for you?
Yeah, I mean, we had not just about the religious aspect, but I'm gonna go into that too. It's just we had church every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday we had church in the morning. We had Friday morning chapel, and then we had Friday evening chapel, and then Saturday we had a break, but we still had Bible studies. We didn't go to the chapel, but we had Bible studies in our dorms. And then Sundays we had twice, and we actually got to go off campus, which was a treat. We didn't really go off campus that much, but we went off campus, went to a church that we included ourselves in with a bunch of other guys, and we went to there, and then we came back, and then we had another evening service. So just that continuous schedule of especially going to church that much just changes people's lives. And obviously, normally people only go to church one time a week. Maybe if you're a youth, if you go to youth group, and most of the time your parents want you to go, so you go. But yeah, so I mean, just the religious church aspect of it that's changed everything. So yeah.
It changed everything for you.
For me, yeah.
I mean, I think going to a place where you're hearing the Word of God, we have an opportunity to be in God's presence, engage your heart in the area of worship, and direct your attention to Him. It gives you an opportunity.
Yeah.
Did everyone take that opportunity?
Nah. Normally, I'm not even gonna say normally. It kind of gets to the point where it's like, what am I doing right now if I don't take this opportunity? Because you're kind of just there, and it's like you don't want to be sitting there for 2 hours not knowing what's going on and not really engaging yourself. And if you don't engage yourself, you just feel like, absolute crap, because you just spent 2 hours of your life doing nothing. And then after we get out, people are talking about it, and you're like, oh, I don't even know what's going on, right? So it's like, normally people don't take advantage of the 2 chapels or the chapel every single day in the program, just because just where they grew up and just how they decided to live their life before the program. And I especially just took that leap just after an amazing preacher spoke, and it was just life-changing for me after I surrendered. But most of the time, people just go through the motions, try to get out.
So I guess it's even these kinds of conversations that we're trying to have. I realize that just because we have a conversation or just because you show up for church, it doesn't mean anything changes. There's something about owning something for yourself and making the decision to do something about it, to put it into your life. But even then, one of the ways that I've tried to have a conversation with Joe, because of my influence of him is lessening, is instead of saying, Joe, you need to do this, I say, hey, Joe, would you at least think about it? Would you at least consider this? I mean, if there's a small part of this that you want to latch onto and take a hold of and implement in your life, then please do that. But would you please consider that? And I have a lot of respect for Joe on that. I feel as though, even though he may not buy into everything that I'm saying, I feel as though he's still considering most of what I have to say. Or maybe the first time, he'll kind of, Dad, that's not me right now. If I feel like God's putting something on my heart and I say it again, typically he'll go, okay, I'll consider this. And so I've really appreciated that about our conversations, and that I'm not expecting that you buy into everything, but it's great that you can at least hear me out And then
Sure.
vice versa. I mean, you've
Sure.
said some things to me, and I've really learned a lot as well.
For sure.
As maybe I haven't agreed with your position on
Mhm.
something, but at least I'm considering it, and I'm understanding you, and I'm loving you more.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
So this is called the Dad and Joe Show, Fathers and Sons Awake and Sober. So I wanted to share with you where that verse comes from. When we're talking about sobriety, obviously there's things of sobriety, whether it be alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling. I mean, there's all kinds of sobriety that we get ourselves, or there's all kinds of addictions that we get ourselves hung up. And it's not just teens. I mean, it's people of all ages are hung up on stuff. And some of those addictions are more acceptable than others. There's plenty of people who joke because they're addicted to coffee and they get a headache as soon as they get off the coffee, or addicted to sweets or food, or there's different addictions or things that we rely on besides God. So I think the sobriety that we're talking about, at least at this particular passage that we're going to talk about, it isn't just about it includes sobriety, things that can be addicting to us, but it also talks about being awake and alert. So the passage that came from is 1 Thessalonians 5 and 6. And the context is Paul, the apostle, he's writing to a group of people in Thessalonica, or Thessaloniki. And I was in Thessaloniki. So 30 years ago, this fall, I had a chance to be in Thessalonica with some good friends of mine who were missionaries in Albania at the time. And we met in Thessaloniki and spent a couple days of vacation there. So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
But in this book, Paul talks a lot about the end times. And he, in 1 Thessalonians 5, he is saying, hey, Jesus is returning. And so you do not want to be caught off guard. Jesus had a lot of parables about when he'd return, people would be surprised. And so Paul was reminding the Thessalonians that something's going to happen, things will come quickly. And it's during a time when everyone's going to say, hey, everything's chill, things are peaceful, things are secure, and then it says disaster will come, or the end will come, and it'll catch some people. Everyone will be surprised, some will be happy, some won't be happy.
Yeah.
And so this 1 Thessalonians 5 and 6 says this. Paul said, for you are all children of light. So he's speaking to the people who are followers of Jesus in Thessalonica. For you are all children of light, children of the day. He says, we are not of the night or of the darkness. So then, let us not sleep as others do, but let us keep awake and sober. And he's not talking about going to take a nap. He's talking about just being dull, not being aware of what's happening in the world, not being aware of your future and choices that you can be making, not being willing to have hard conversations about topics that really affect our lives. And so this is a theme verse for our show, in that we would be awake and sober, and we'd be alert and not be dull. And you have been different since you've been, things changed about 6 weeks in? I think something like that, about 6 weeks in. The first time we saw Joe, we were able to see Joe after he went into the program. He was very different, and he was alert. And you could tell things were different. They tell that God had done something in his life. And so there's definitely an awakeness to you, an alertness to you.
Yeah.
And I think you're taking your life, your health, more seriously. You've remained sober about it. Yeah. Have you stopped having fun?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
You still have plenty of fun?
Yeah, for sure.
But how has your perspective changed? What does being awake and sober mean to you?
I'd say being awake and sober just means trying to continue living in a lifestyle that can't hinder you from interacting with our Creator. And the whole point of being sober is to have full contact and be able to interact with God, our Creator, the best we can. And you can't do that if you're under substances. You can't do that if you're distracted by video games. You can't do that if you're distracted by your girlfriend. You can't do that if you're distracted by many different things that can be turned into addictions. that you may want to get sober off of. So being awake and sober, that's why we do this, is that we can reflect on Scripture, talk about it, and then reflect from our conversations onto whoever's watching, so that we might be able to help anyone out there, or even that you guys can reflect off of us, because maybe we're saying stuff that you might not agree with. Then that gets you thinking, and you can have your own like mentality. Not everybody's made to have their own thinking. That's why we're all made differently. We all have different brain chemistry that we can all think about different things at different times. So yeah, awake and sober, just chasing after God with a clear mind so that He can change it.
Yeah. So you don't have to agree with everything we say, and you don't. It's okay. You can. We just want to get your conversation going somewhere.
Yeah.
So if the conversation starts going away from our perspective, at least you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
At least you're not dull about it. At least you're not indifferent about it. Be passionate about it.
Go in detail about it.
Go in detail about it and learn from it and have the conversation and consider it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that you know that the whole awake and sober thing isn't just about Joe. It's about me too.
Yeah.
And there are so many former colleagues of mine, different jobs that I've had. You know, the parents are just need to be awake and sober just as much as the kids do.
Yeah.
They have their own addictions, various things that keep them in a bad place, and they're not thinking about their futures. So this is for both of us. I benefit from this conversation just as much as Joe does. Hopefully he learns something from me, and hopefully I learn something from him. And then together we learn something that we couldn't on our own.
For sure.
And also, we're not perfect about the issues that we talk about. Just because we're having a nice conversation here at the moment, we have plenty of other conversations. Well, we've had a lot of conversations this week about things, and we've disagreed about some stuff, but we are at least trying to have conversations.
Yeah.
As father and son. So
yeah.
We're not there yet. I don't know if we ever arrive, but at least we're talking, at least we're learning, at least we're respecting each other and having some conversations. So I've done most of the talking on this introduction. That's not the way that a lot of these episodes go. Usually I'm asking Joe questions. You get to hear more from him. So if you're a teen and you want to hear more from Joe, you'll definitely hear a whole lot more from Joe and less from me.
Yeah.
But we want to encourage you to, as a format, I want to encourage you that you would challenge yourselves as dads and sons to spend 35 minutes together each week. 20 minutes watching an episode from us, and then 10 to 15 minutes, 10 minutes talking about it. There will be some questions in the show notes, so you can ask some questions. Or if there's just something that we say that you really latched onto, or something you totally disagreed with, talk about that. Or feel free to go to the show notes. And then spend a few minutes praying together. Jesus does make a difference in people's lives, and He's really the only one that I could say has changed my life, and I think in Jesus has changed your life. So you can't do anything else. Prayer, having a conversation with God, bringing Him into the situation, it's a great way to go. So, hey, we did our introduction. This is about how long the show is. It's about 20 minutes or so. And we want to encourage you to listen, have these conversations, have regular conversations about important life issues so that you remain awake and sober.
Yeah.
You good?
That's about it.
All right.
That's about it. All right. Peace.